We are following breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ, where the Browns releasing star wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. Both sides coming together on a resolution to end his time in Cleveland, and he is out on his way to waivers. It'll be interesting to see over the past couple of days his excused absence from practice after no action during the trade deadline at 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. As you take a look at his numbers this season, all of them pretty much have been bad. Fewest in a season in a career for him. Not too far removed from being the superstar of the National Football League. All right, we've got Ryan Wilson joining us here with the breaking news. Arda, what do you think about what is transpired here this morning between the Browns and OBJ?
Well, it's a quick end to what was a pretty rocky marriage, it feels like, at least recently, Tommy. And it's not a surprise given how this season has unfolded and how the last few days have unfolded. Sunday's loss to Pittsburgh, Odell Beckham was obviously visibly frustrated. Wasn't a big part of that game plan. Hasn't been a big part of game plans throughout the season. It feels like Baker Mayfield never really trusted him this season coming off that ACL injury. Jarvis Landry was his go-to guy. We've seen other people like Donovan Peoples-Jones and Rashard Higgins get more looks. And then, of course, we have the issues surrounding Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad liking a video on Instagram that showed all the times that Odell Beckham was wide open, and you can debate whether how wide open he was. And, of course, LeBron James tweeting out free OBJ, and then things just escalated from there. It sounds like, according to reports, that Baker Mayfield was pretty upset with how those things unfolded in terms of Beckham's unhappiness. And here we are, Tommy. And it's weird to think that back in 2014, when Odell Beckham made that one-handed catch in the end zone for the Giants, fast forward to 2021, and here we are. I believe today's his birthday as well, so happy birthday for Odell. Not so happy birthday for those around him in Cleveland, but hasn't lived up to the expectations, and that's the reality. And the diva label, fair or not, is now going to be something he has to carry around. We'll see where he goes from here, Tommy, but again, you're not getting even an Antonio Brown, who had plenty of off-field baggage in terms of the on-field productivity. You're having glimpses of what you saw 5, 6, 7 years ago and wondering if you can recapture that in a new destination.
All right, there's a couple things here I want to go. There's sort of the football side, which we'll get to, Ryan, but there's the financial side first. We have our Jonathan Jones, senior NFL reporter, saying everyone's hopeful a financial agreement is agreed to. Browns want to make sure he's claimed, and if so, on waivers, that some of the burden is relieved. They're working with Beckham's representation to make this work for both sides. So financially, again, I think we've been eyeing this even at the trade deadline, but money was certainly one of the things that kind of held things up. What do you think about the financial aspect here?
And that's the thing. We heard reports earlier this morning that the Browns are trying to convert base salary to signing bonus in order to free up some of that space that will allow other teams to claim him on waivers. Otherwise, if he has to get cut outright, then he potentially could become a free agent, and he could go wherever he decided. The waiver claims obviously are based on the order in which the records based on the NFL teams. Worst records have the first dibs, so to speak. So Judge is exactly right. They're trying to sort out the financials and make it such that they don't have to be on the hook for as much, and also allow teams that claim him on waivers to take some of that financial burden. So that's what we're waiting to find out, see how that unfolds. But again, Tommy, this is a guy who could be the highest paid wide receiver based on productivity and what we saw early in his career alone, and we just haven't gotten to that point. You could say, yeah, the ACL injury last year had something to do with that, but I think it's much more the reasons he was traded out of New York, the reasons it hasn't worked in Cleveland, and that has very little to do with the on-field stuff and has to do with just about everything else, it feels like.
So then in your eyes, in your opinion, is there a good football fit? I know, again, financials have to do a lot with it, but for purely a system or a quarterback or something you would like to see, do we have that out there right now?
Well, it's clear that Odell Beckham wants to be the main show in town, and it's sort of, to a larger degree, what we saw with Deshaun Watson with the Rams. Deshaun Watson and the Rams didn't work out because Deshaun Watson wanted more targets. Deshaun Watson's 34 and is on the downside of a good career. Odell Beckham's just 29 years old. So, look, Henry Ruggs had the incident just a few days ago. He has since been released by the Raiders. The Raiders are 5-2 in first place in that division. They need a big play wide receiver. Maybe Odell Beckham can go somewhere in Las Vegas where he will be the guy who gets the targets. He will be the guy after perhaps Darren Waller, who is the guy that Derek Carr looks for, and that could make some sense. What are other teams that make sense? The New Orleans Saints. The Saints and the Browns were having conversations, Tommy, right up to the trade deadline, but we just talked about the financials. The financials couldn't be sorted out in time to pull that deal off. Michael Thomas is done for the year. There's not a clear quarterback situation in terms. We know that Jameis is down. Taysom Hill's coming back from the concussions. Trevor Siemian's there. Is that somewhere Odell wants to go? Not having a top flight quarterback. That's also something. That's a math that Sean Payton will have to do. And, of course, anytime that a big name comes available, Tommy, you have to mention the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick has a pretty good track record of getting the most out of guys who have worn out their welcome elsewhere. The only issue now, this isn't Tom Brady. This is Mac Jones, a rookie quarterback, and they're not really big on throwing the ball down the field. I don't know if that solves Odell Beckham's problems.
Let's get back to the Browns. R-Dub, how does this, if at all, change how you view Cleveland moving forward?
It doesn't affect Cleveland at all. They need to get healthy, Tommy. That's the big issue. Odell Beckham wasn't contributing offensively on a consistent basis for this football team. And if you watch the Browns when they're healthy, it starts with Baker Mayfield, but it also starts with the two guys behind him, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. When they're healthy and they can run the ball, that's all that team needs to do. The offensive line is one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Jarvis Landry is the go-to guy. Donovan Peoples-Jones has stepped up. David Njoku has made plays. Harrison, the other time, has made plays as well. Odell Beckham was an afterthought, and that's just the truth. And Mary Kay Cabot, the Cleveland Browns beat reporter, has reported that Odell was asking for trades this offseason while he was rehabbing the ACL. So he saw the writing on the wall. I think the Browns is just a temporary distraction, but at the end of the day, they've moved on from this. Kevin Stefanski's still the reigning coach of the year, and if they get healthy, Tommy, they're going to be a good football team. I don't think Odell Beckham affects their ability to make the playoffs one way or the other.
All right, Ryan Wilson joining us here with the breaking news. Ryan, certainly appreciated again. Our Jonathan Jones confirming an NFL Network report that the Browns and OBJ have agreed to part ways. He's being released, and again, everyone's hopeful for a financial arrangement that's agreed to. Browns want to make it so that he's claimed on waivers and some of the burden is relieved, working with Beckham's representation to make this work for both sides. Working on getting Jonathan Jones as well as our other insider, Josina Anderson, in just a bit. But as you take a look at Odell Beckham Jr.'s career decline, those magical years with the New York Giants, and then with his time in Cleveland, those numbers have dipped dramatically, including this season with pretty much all season lows for the former superstar wide receiver.